This story begins with a little girl. She was completely rejected by her village, because she could bring trouble to them all. Starless should not exist in this world. Luck was on her side, so she managed to escape. In the forest was her hiding place. She had enough things, but where should she go now? The only thing that remained with her were the inner thoughts from her past life. She was an unwanted child. Her own parents got rid of her, so she left her village behind. But our heroine has absolutely no skills. At least if she knew how to run, hide well, then her life would have turned out differently. Her inner voice turned out to be wiser, because if you complain about who you were born as, a good streak will not start. On the way there was only a huge pile of garbage. Clothes, a map, potions and much more will greatly help her on her way. But even here there were problems. This is one of the Tamers. His task is to catch our heroine. It is assumed that the girl went to the nearest village of Latov. Here we learn that the heroine's name is Femitia and the reward for the little brat is huge. The head of the village was generous, all just to kill the girl. This time she was lucky, she was able to break away from her pursuers. Her path continues no matter what. Here, in the middle of the lake, she met the first monsters. Slugs. There were a huge number of them, but by a lucky coincidence, Femitia was able to break away. The potions from the trash, of course, are old, so they need to be used twice. Already in the next frame, our heroine arrived at the place where she immediately decided to wash herself. Only at this moment does she feel great, because all her life she has only hidden from people. Now she will not hesitate. This is what the fortune teller taught her. She advised her to become a boy, because she believes that the girl is a traveler, easy prey. Now Femitia will have to change her name. From now on, her name is Ivy. This is the name the voice suggested. Ivy is a plant that won't die if you step on it. Our heroine's journey continues. But something caught her eye. The biggest drop on the grass turned out to be a small slug. You need to immediately find information in the monster collection. This is a rare, nameless slug. It is called the weakest slug, or the disintegrating slug. It turns out that the slug is the weakest of its kind, just like our heroine. No wonder they call it the weakest. The usual wind causes him huge problems. Problems arise with turning it from head to toe. This slug is so weak that it can disappear from pressure and fall apart from a gust of wind. Ivy can't figure out how to help it, because she is afraid of harming it. After all, accuracy does nothing to it. Since the monster is incredibly weak, it can disappear within one day. Because of such a short life, this is a very rare species of slugs. They are practically unstudied, and everything that concerns them is covered by a veil of secrecy. A strong wind does not allow our heroine to read in peace. All that is left is to run around the field. At the very last moment, the rescue was successful. Ivy volunteered to protect a small, defenseless creature. Only the language of slugs was not clear, but let's hope that he agrees. Since he has one last day left, then they will be together until the very end. The heavens do not play fair. They create not only happy creatures, but also such as Ivy and the slug. People in the world of Artigus receive certain skills as soon as they turn 5 years old. Ivy's father has 2 stars in carpentry and woodworking. My mother has 2 stars in sewing and 1 star skill in mending things. No one can predict their future talents, and the number of stars received is determined by the heavens. The future of each person is determined by their skills and the number of stars. When our heroine turned 5, she also received a skill taming, the ability to tame and dispose of monsters, but they did not give her stars. So she is a starless tamer. So as soon as the villagers learned about her ability, their opinion changed. Even her parents began to look past her. She lost everything, food and shelter, lost the home in which she was needed. However, she has something that others do not have. Memories from a past life. Apparently, she is a person from the past world who was reborn here. The memories, of course, are not clear, but she hears fragments of thoughts. The voice periodically gives advice. Our heroine also had a dear person, a fortune teller. It was she who gave her books and taught her a lot. This magic bag is a gift from the fortune teller. The model of the bag, of course, is old, but it fits a whole mountain of things and makes them lighter. Thanks to her, Ivy was able to survive in the forest. Unfortunately, the fortune teller died quite recently. Now our heroine definitely has no one left. Not a single person who would consider her not an empty space. The inhabitants of the settlement are trying to kill her. The head of the village. Father. Literally everyone, and she did nothing bad. The reason is that she was born without stars, that she is helpless. Does she deserve such hatred? Maybe the world is letting her know that there is no place for her here. The slug became her first and only friend. Now they will be together until the very end. Already in the next frame, early in the morning, the new friend was no longer there. It is hard to believe that if the world says that it does not need him, is it possible to somehow fix this? Loneliness haunts her from all sides. Despite all the worries and sadness, she needs to follow the fortune teller's advice to go to the capital. The map will help with this. It is also an excellent refuge for slugs. It turns out that the book lied about the duration of his life. Already in the next frame, our heroine tries to understand how the subjugation of monsters works. During the spell, the Tamer transfers a part of his magic to the monster. If the monster accepts the energy, it will be illuminated by a glow. While it is in this state, the monster is given a name. If successful, a sign will appear on the monster. Will the Starless Tamer be able to tame the weakest slug? The transfer of mana has begun. Now it is necessary to come up with a name. In honor of its beautiful blue color, the slug is named Suro, which means sky. Now our heroine has her own personal pet. Soon they will be able to get to know each other better. In the next frame, our heroine is trying to get some food. Field mice are quite appetizing. All that remains is to divide and put the food in storage. Today, our heroes will definitely have a feast. In the next frame, Ivy tells the plan of action. They go to the city, not far from the capital of the kingdom. She goes there on the advice of the fortune teller. First, they need to get to the city of Atalva. But the approaching steps and sounds did not allow her to finish the story. Our heroine is too slow, they will definitely be caught. The pursuers turned out to be huge ants. A huge flock. After some time, everything became calm. In the forest, you must always stay on guard, because they can attack at any second. Now it is necessary to get rid of the wound. One potion is not enough, because it has spoiled a little. Only the supply of potions was exhausted, although our heroes had stocked up on a large number of potions. Already in the next frame, our heroes were already very close to the village. The road will lead them straight to the village. Only right here a poster was noticed to find Famitzia, and the reward is a stunning 500, this is a lot of money. On the next poster, the face was slightly distorted. And on the last one, everything was quite beautiful. Already the next moment, Ivy arrived in the village. People in the village possessed household magic, our heroine also dreamed of conjuring. Our heroine needs to sell her prey. Therefore, she immediately went to negotiate with the butcher. Only embarrassment did not allow her to do this. However, the butcher took everything into his own hands. With the help of the smell skill, the man immediately realized that our heroine had several field mice. The carcass is very fresh, because the prey was immediately wrapped in a sheet of bana. The hunt brought Ivy 100 dal. There was also information that few people are engaged in catching small game, since everyone goes for large ones, so this could be a niche for our heroine. Immediately after this, Ivy went for bread. For 20 dal, 2 loaves of bread came out. Now our heroine will be able to enjoy a bread product for a long time. Sora also gets his half. Only slugs do not eat bread, but it is unclear what they eat in principle. The very next day, our heroine walked from the forest with a huge catch of field mice. Today she will be able to earn a lot and buy bread. Also along the way there was a garbage heap. It was this heap that gave a huge amount of potions. However, again a little spoiled. We need to look for more or less suitable ones. Here it also became known that Sora eats only blue potions. However, his appetite was so huge that our heroine was left without blue potions. In the next frame, Ivy arrived at the store. Today she managed to earn 250 dal. Along the old route, she went to the bread store. A gift also went with the sweet bun and bread. In the next frame, after water procedures, it was time for lunch. Happiness is to treat yourself to bread every day. Our heroine would like to stay here forever. After all, the villagers are so kind, not like her previous place. There is nothing better to live and not be afraid of people. I wish I could settle here forever. In the next frame, our heroine came across adventurers. Where were those who were hunting for her? They were immediately interested in the magic bags. But this was just a provocation. At that moment, the butcher made it clear that more mice were needed, because the adventurers who had arrived had bought up all the dried meat, and the price would go up. In turn, the pastry chef decided to treat our heroine to her favorite buns. But just like at the butcher's shop, Ivy was scared off by a poster. In the next frame, our heroine is trying to cope with her grief, because she already needs to leave the village. The posters and adventurers make it clear that the city is already hunting her. Therefore, the very next day, she needs to leave the village, because she cannot stay there because of the wanted posters. Immediately on the way, the first fork appeared. The heroine very much regretted not taking those buns. She ran away so quickly that she did not take water, not to mention potions. The path continues, and the road leads her straight to the river. This is where you can replenish your water and eat fruit. However, the tree turned out to be difficult. The monster tried to scare her with his appearance in every possible way. Our heroine has no choice but to run away. Only she didn't have enough strength because of hunger. And the wound she received knocked her out of strength. It is in this situation that Suro is a real helper. Several years ago, an ordinary village family had a daughter. The young parents have to choose a name. The girl will be called Famitzia. The mother was incredibly happy about the birth of her daughter. The girl quickly grew up and became an excellent assistant in the family. The father has the ability to create water. Already in the evening, our heroine tries to help at home, where at the same moment she is offered to use household magic. Only she thinks that she will soon master it. Mom thinks that she should not rush. However, she told her eldest daughter differently. Younger children are scolded less. Today they have everyone's favorite stew of nanasi for dinner. Also, thanks to Facilia and her comforting skill, the fatigue disappeared. Already in the morning, the family is busy with household things. Where we learn that the son of the family has a 3-star skill in making furniture. Mom, in turn, is a little sad because the shoemaker ordered a wedding dress for her daughter from her, and she understands perfectly well that she and Facilius will also get married. Everyone is really looking forward to Famicia's birthday, because then everyone will find out what skills she can have. A person acquires a skill when he turns 5, with it she will definitely find a job and will not be left without a piece of bread. The type of skill and the number of stars are decisive factors determining the future place of work. With 3 stars, like her son, there is nothing to worry about, but with 1 star, like Facilius, the girl is doomed. Our heroine dreams of becoming a tamer, so she can make friends with dragons, griffins, and other monsters. But no one appreciated her desires, because skills are given in order to work. These are gifts from heaven, thanks to which they survive in this world. Friendliness alone will not save her. At that moment, an uninvited guest appeared. This is Mrs. Luba, who just remembered that Famicia would soon receive her long-awaited skill and came to pray for her success. It turns out that when Famicia was very little, at the age of 2, she began to say something strange, which is why Luba was invited. When our heroine was little, she only said that she was reborn in another world. Since the fortune teller has come, it will be necessary to read our heroine's future. All that is needed is a new candle. While they were alone, Luba asked not to tell anyone about the peculiarity of rebirth, even close ones, because she would have a hard time. Already at an older age, the fortune teller finished the prayer and learned that Famicia would receive a useful skill. But everyone was interested in how exactly she would receive the skill. However, the fortune teller only has 1-star skill of foresight, so it will not be possible to find out. Already in the next frame, our heroine's birthday has arrived. It is on this day that she will be gifted with the power that will help her in the future. Along with the sacred gift, she will know the joy of the difficult, the happiness of life on earth, and the triumph of divine providence. Now you can begin the ceremony. The priest needs to turn to the heavens so that they will gift her with divine power, with which she will be able to survive in this world. The acquired skill was taming, in other words, she can tame monsters. However, as for the number of stars, not a single one was received. The family did not want to believe it at all. Only this is a sacred answer, and it cannot be doubted. From that moment, our heroine pulled out an unlucky ticket. In the evening, the family was completely dissatisfied with the skill of their daughter. The father drank out of grief. Both he and the mother have stars. They also appeared in the children, so why is Famicia starless? From that moment, the rude and insulting attitude towards our heroine began. A skill without stars is of no use. The father immediately thought that Famicia was not his daughter at all. The whole family hated our heroine from that moment on. The son immediately threw her out on the threshold. The whole village is discussing this event. Even the head of the village did not stand aside. The children, however, are trying to mock Famicia. Her whole world has turned against her in an instant. She has no choice but to run away from there. She no longer has a home. Now even freezing to death is a problem. An attempt to use fire magic also did not give any results. However, in the next frame, the fortune teller saved our heroine. It seems that she is weaker in magic than others. Using magic is harmful to her health, so she needs to be more careful. Luba knew everything from the very beginning. The visions told her everything. However, the reasons were not unknown to her, also that she would not be gifted with stars. Some time later, after dinner, the fortune teller noted that although the magical power was not enough, but with skillful use it would be useful to her. At the same time, our heroine received those same bags, as well as useful encyclopedias. Luba also told that Famicia was waiting for an adventure in which she would visit many places and expand her horizons. She needed to go to a city near the capital. She also needed to find people she could trust. She could tell them everything. She could reveal all her secrets. The only one who did not hate our heroine was the fortune teller, because a long time ago no one had skills and stars. People worked and lived happily, even without any abilities. However, it is unknown why everything changed. In the next frame, 3 years later, our heroine is exploring another pile of garbage. She was also engaged in hunting and making new methods. However, at some point, our heroine heard footsteps, several people. She has a bad feeling. Already in the next frame, Famicia arrived in the village, where she learned from the local sisters that Luba died of a cold. The last person who was dear to our heroine has left. At that moment, our heroine's father reports that his daughter is not here, not even in her forest camp. But the head of the village was completely sure that Famicia would bring trouble to their village. The father needs to destroy his own daughter. She will return to heaven to find happiness. The next moment, the head of the village made a speech that Mrs. Luba died from a curse. The fortune teller did not neglect his words and took Famicia under her wing, which is why a curse was placed on her. The girl brings misfortune. If nothing is done, Famitzia will send a curse on the entire village. Everyone needs to catch her and kill her before punishment overtakes her. The lie worked perfectly, so the search and persecution of our heroine began, although she did nothing bad. At that very moment, our heroine woke up in the present tense. Bad memories do not allow her to rest. At that very moment, Suro continues the treatment, but the heroine perceives it as an attack of a monster. She has come to terms with her death. Already in the next frame, a new day has come. The healing process is completely over. At that very moment, the slug uttered his first word. Now he is able to talk, though only with one word. Our heroine is immensely grateful to Suro for saving her. There is very little left. Our heroine cannot give up. The next morning, right on a small tree, Suro woke up first, so he decided to set the alarm clock. If only our heroine knew what the slug was talking about. It's time to finally continue their journey. However, they need to have a snack first. Eating potions had a positive effect on the slug. He grew up and even jumped. Ivy thinks that Suro looks much stronger, because when they met, he was a weak clot of mucus. This type of slug matures by eating blue potions. It's lucky that our heroine found time to pick berries, because the meat supplies have already run out. So before visiting the village, it is necessary to catch field mice. At the same moment, a voice from a past life suggested that Ivy dry the meat herself, so she will get a little more money. However, this is not an option, because if our heroine starts cooking in the forest thicket, then the smell may attract monsters. At the same time, Suro completely ate all the potions, but did not eat his fill. Now we need to solve the problem of the lack of potions. Therefore, in the next frame, our heroine was lucky to come across a garbage heap, where new clothes were immediately found. Also, no one forgot about Suro. There was a considerable amount. In addition, Suro is not picky in the choice of blue potions. He can even eat spoiled potions. Even experimental children's potions go into the firebox. And also, Suro can now calmly eat red potions. Previously, he did not even touch them. Ivy decided to feed potions of a different color, but the green potion, which relieves pain, and the purple one, which removes the curse, are not suitable. At that moment, the voice of the past suggested mixing the potions. Suro could only eat the red and blue together. He did not even touch the others. In the next frame, the path of our heroes continues. Ivy did not think that traveling was so fun, especially with good weather. She is incredibly happy to meet Suro, because only he does not let her be lonely. Immediately along the way, a berry bush appeared with incredibly tasty fruits. All that remains is to collect as many as possible. It was already closer to evening, time for dinner. Before Ivy had time to eat one berry, Suro had already swallowed all the potions. The received supplement was also not enough. He is a real glutton. However, another supplement was also not enough. At this rate he would eat all the supplies. An inner voice told her that she wanted to eat when she was not sleeping, so she needed to put Suro to bed as quickly as possible. It was time for a bedtime story. It was already late in the evening, and the heroine decided to tell her what she had often been told as a child. Once upon a time, a long time ago, a war was raging in the world. One day, the king gathered the wizards who could see the future and demanded that they predict the outcome of the war. However, the wizards predicted the end of the world, and a terrible sight opened before their eyes. The magicians discussed their visions, and cast a very powerful spell to protect the world. Now no one knows what it was and no one can repeat it, not a single soul except for a child who came from another world. Magic that no longer exists, magic that no one remembers, magic with unknown consequences, magic wiped off the face of the earth. A huge, terrible, silent, lonely and imperceptible emptiness. A moment later, morning came and the alarm clock began its work. It turns out that Ivy fell asleep while telling a story. This story always put her to sleep. She never listened to it to the end. At the same moment, Suro completely got rid of all the potions. Already in the next frame, the hunt for forest dwellers continues. It's good that field mice can be sold. You need to save up more money for their journey. However, it was not quite a field mouse that was caught in the trap. However, someone will most likely buy the snake too. Therefore, our heroine was able to grab it without wasting time. After some time, our heroes continued on their way to the village. However, a strange smell stopped them. The smell led them to a place where monsters or bandits could attack. Also, corpses of peaceful traders were noticed. The whole forest rose to its ears. A strong wind and a storm forced our heroine to run as fast as she could. But she did not have enough strength for the long journey, and the village was quickly discovered. Already in the next frame, Ivy arrived at a huge settlement. Now she needs to tell about what happened in the forest. The village council can help with this. To which Ivy quickly headed. Once inside, everyone was interested in what our heroine was carrying in the bag. Only the snake should be sold not here, but in the pharmacy. Only Ivy came here to report information. On the road from the village of Lyuda, a burnt cart with a huge number of corpses was noticed. However, the local knight decided that this was a simple attack by bandits. However, Only a monster could leave such terrible wounds. The horse was not spared either, and bandits do not kill them, they just steal them. Now, everyone has received an order to find the cart and establish the type of monster, after which there will be an official request to the guild. For such information, a reward will be received. This is a monetary incentive. The village council pays for any information about monsters or people killed by their paws. All that remains is to take the paper, and then return with it later to receive the reward. The results of the sortie will be known in the evening. In the very next frame, on the advice of the council workers, Ivy went to the pharmacy. Only this is not just a snake, but a rare female, so the price will be 3 jidal. After some quick calculations, 1 snake costs as much as 30 ordinary mice. Enough money for the first time was received. All that was left was to look for food for Suro. In the very next frame, a garbage heap was immediately found, on which a magic bag was immediately found, not even one, but a whole warehouse of magic bags. A total of 21 pieces. It will not be possible to take all of this amount on foot. However, a voice from the past suggested putting one bag in another, so it will be possible to take everything at once. After some time, the maximum number of bags was still placed, but it will not be possible to carry everything away, it will be too heavy. Nothing fits into the first magic bags at all. 1 more bag fits into the second. You can squeeze up to 2 magic bags into the third. The last bags can hold up to 3. If you arrange everything correctly, our heroine will be able to achieve a roomy and compact luggage. After some time and attempts, from all the mountains of bags, only 4 bags remained. In the next frame, Ivy arrived in the city, immediately got to the gathering of heroes near the guild. In this crowd, our hero was noticed by a familiar knight. Our heroine's information was very useful. Everything was found out quickly. The culprits were ogres and their king. Their tracks were found around the cart. Following them, adventurers found the ogre king. Experienced specialists have already begun hunting ogres. It is dangerous there until the monsters are defeated, so our heroine will have to stay in the village. Now Ivy will be able to get a cash reward. However, the paper was lost among the countless number of bags. After some time, the paper was found. Information about 5 dead is worth 5 jidal, which is impossibly much. After all, a snake costs 30 mice, and information is worth as much as 50 mice. However, that's not all. Information about high-ranking monsters costs 2 ladles, 2 gold coins, which means 2 ladles are 200 field mice, which makes 280 mice. Just about to leave, our heroine forgot a huge mountain of bags. Ivy has never owned such a huge amount of money. She hopes no one will hunt for gold coins. However, everyone is worried about why our heroine has so many bags. Already in the next frame, early in the evening, in a camp near the city, our heroine was having dinner. Since the forest is dangerous, our hero will have to spend the night here. While the ogres are free, they will have to stay in the city, then they will go to La Home, which is more of a city than a village. There are advantages, a journey with adventures. Already in the next frame, another broken trap was discovered in the forest. So our heroine is left without money. The hunt did not go well. However, Suro found something. There is a smell of blood nearby. It is a wounded monster, and there is also magic in the air. Now we need to understand what kind of creature it is. If you compare it with the picture, it looks like an andandel, an extremely rare and ferocious animal. The monster was still alive. However, our heroine cannot help, so she will just stay nearby. Only there is Suro, who can heal the poor animal in an instant. A moment later, the monster was completely healed. However, another problem arose. It is still a monster. Only he had other plans for our heroine. According to the book, to defeat this formidable monster, a squad of at least 5 top-ranked adventurers can overcome. If you meet one in the forest, death cannot be avoided. Perhaps this is not even an andandel. Already in the next frame, the squad already consists of 3 members. Now our heroine has another friend. If Ivy had a little more magic, she would be able to tame him. All that remains is to come up with a name for the new companion. The choice fell on the name Seal, which means sky in some language. It is not clear how she knows it. People are already very close. It is necessary to hide the monsters, but Seal will not fit anywhere, but she cannot be allowed to be seen. Only the animal itself solved the problem. Already in the next frame, our heroine arrived in the city. Even the gate guard looks scary. You can't just get into Latham, you need to say the purpose of your visit. The visitor could not come up with anything plausible, so it was time for a search. He had a huge amount of illegal alcohol with him. Now the criminal will go to the dungeon. Now our heroine has a problem. Maybe we shouldn't stop in this city at all. However, the gate guard has already noticed our heroine. Now even running away will attract unnecessary attention. Our heroine was not spared the interrogation. In Ivy's eyes, the guard looked as scary as possible. But in fact, everything was fine. Only the information that there was an insect on her shoulder could fix the situation. Our heroine had to say that she came from the village of Latumi. The guard heard that things were not going well there. Our heroine had a hard time, but she was safe in Latumi. She could easily become an adventurer and earn her bread. Thus, our heroine found herself in a huge city. The first thing our heroine did was go to the butcher. Here she could sell her fresh catch and buy some dried meat. So now she needed to find a place to spend the night. The adventurer camp would be perfect for this. Here she was given a corner and a personal pass, without which she would not be allowed in. This was necessary to limit the number of people. Now she could calmly spread out and rest. Everything here was divided by rank, large tents for adventurers of medium rank, small tents for beginning adventurers. We would like our tent, it would solve the problem with the weather, and Suro could be easily released from the bag. This is where the reward for information will come in handy. Already in the next frame, our heroine arrived at the tent trading market. Here we met our old friends. Now it's time to get acquainted. The thug is called October, and his assistant is Villaviera. The new comrades promised to find the best tent for our heroine. Therefore, they immediately went to the best merchant in the city. All that remains is to decide on the choice of the model. Only our heroine does not understand this at all. The price depends on the product. You need to understand the budget of our heroine. Only Ivy's condition surprised everyone. She had a fortune. 5 jidals are enough for an excellent tent, light and durable, the latest model. All that remains is to put your mark, so that if anything happens, you can recognize your thing, no matter what happens. The chosen mark was the symbol of the sky, Suro. Ivy was also given a small gift, a small magic bag, which is best used for a wallet. All this thanks to October, but it's time for them to go to work. That same evening, it's time to use the tent. Now our heroine has her own warm place. Now they can go to bed without worrying about rain and wind. However, all that's left is to celebrate the new home. You just need to go to the garbage heap for potions. However, a group of seekers was interested in our heroine. Namely, her tent. They immediately hung a thief's mark. According to them, our heroine stole his scarf. Only she did not do this, but only bought it with her own money. However, this is too chic a tent for such a kid. But to great luck, the camp guard decided to intervene. The only proof of theft is that our heroine simply could not buy a chic tent with her own money. However, this evidence is not enough for the guard. After all, the city guards personally accompanied our heroine and personally helped her buy a tent. After such words, the hooligans, for some reason, immediately began to deny their versions. Of course, there was an attempt to escape, but the guards were quicker. Now the culprits are heading to the dungeon. Again, everything was resolved thanks to Captain October. It was he who asked to look after our heroine. Since this happened due to the guard's fault, he gave out a small healing potion, the first freshness. It was already late at night. Our heroes can finally begin their holiday. However, Suro was interested in that rare potion. Already in the next frame, morning came. Today, our heroes are going hunting. Only throughout the entire journey through the city, many knights greeted and gave some gifts to our heroine. Everyone around knows the name of Ivy, but here's where from. After some time, our heroes arrived in the forest, and again the traps were broken. At this rate they will remain without prey. Only then an uninvited guest arrived. It was Seal, who immediately gave all the trophies to our heroine. The gift turned out to be 9 fresh rabbits. Now it was time to cut up the carcasses. Only after some time the work was finished. It was all too long, so the monsters fell asleep. All that was left was to sell the meat so it wouldn't spoil. I wonder if Seal is a dandelion. Although she looks like in the book, she is not at all aggressive. Our heroes also have to go back. Already in the next frame, our heroine arrived at the butcher's shop. The loot is as untouched as possible, in perfect condition. The profit was 855 dal for 9. Only on the way home the same thing started. All the knights began to communicate with our heroine. That we even had to hide from them. It is not clear how they found out her name. Mr. Villaviera came here. It turns out that this is all Captain October. He told each guard that if a traveler named Ivy gets into trouble, they need to help him. Ivy earns his own bread, let them not leave without support. Our heroine is certainly grateful, but she does not want to stand out from the crowd, and yet she likes this place. On the way, she came across a fruit stand, where they were selling Zar, fruits from her native village of Latomy. The merchant said that it was the fortune teller Luba who watched over the Zara crops. The harvest time is difficult to guess. If you miss the moment the fruits will be spoiled. That is why the fortune teller predicted a good harvest time. The villagers respected and loved Mrs. Luba, which really infuriated the head. When the fortune teller fell ill, the head of the village refused to give her medicine. In addition to everything, the head is trying to blame the child. After the sudden death of the fortune teller, the Zara harvest failed and the village had financial difficulties. Since then, the head has been reducing the number of hungry mouths. Some of the residents rebelled and left the village with their entire families, and the head himself threw others out of their homes. Since our heroine also ran away from there, the merchant provided a small gift. Already in the next frame, at dinner, Ivy could not get thoughts about her village out of her head. However, now she is having fun. Despite the past hardships, she met Sura and Seal. She is helped by the gentlemen October and Villaviera. Many are on her side, people are so kind to her. And she from her past life is also nearby. The taste of the fruit immediately reminded her of the fortune teller. Another morning came, everything was going as usual, everyone was friendly and kind. Already in the forest, snares were set for various game. All that was left was to find potions for Suro. However, recent villains were encountered along the way. Now it was time for revenge, but this could be avoided if Ivy gave up a rare slime. The only option left was to escape. This is where our heroine's traps came in handy. The very next moment, Ivy was surrounded on both sides. But our heroine was not alone. Seal, as always, came to the rescue. The girl was defeated with just one roar. The man was enough for a short time. Everyone remained safe thanks to Seal. However, people were approaching. It turned out to be October and Villivier. They were making their rounds and, hearing the screams of the monster, headed here. Most likely, they heard their screams. In the very next frame, October said that 4 adventurers were under investigation. The villains extorted money from inexperienced travelers. The couple captured today had been wanted for murder for a long time. They will become slaves without hope of release. The others were also sentenced to hard labor. They will not cause any more problems. However, our heroine was not invited to the guard's house for nothing. A reward is given for the capture of criminals. The average is 5,000 dallas, and for the murderer 2 jidals. For the other 2, the guild offers 1 ladal. In total, Ivy received 2 ladals and 3 jidals. If she had turned into mice, she would have had to catch more than 5,000 mice. October also offered to open an account in the trade guild. He would also become her guarantor. Therefore, in the next frame, Ivy and her comrade arrived at the bank. To open an account, only a drop of blood is needed. So the account was successfully opened. The funds were also successfully deposited into the account. Now, using this plate, she will be able to withdraw money from any bank. However, Villaviera appeared in a rage, asking the next time October leaves his post to report this. Already on the way home, the captain suggested having dinner and trying the signature dish, no nasi shashlik. Therefore, already in the next frame, our heroes arrived at a famous establishment. The order for 10 skewers and 2 mugs of beer with juice will be brought soon. The shashlik turned out to be incredibly tasty. The hostess is incredibly talented, that she can cook in the capital. All thanks to the 4-star cooking skill. This is a huge rarity. Everyone became interested in what talents our heroine has, because with the right skills, she will be able to join the patrol in the future. However, the guards do not care about the number of stars, because even among those who have many stars, there are worthless people. Stars are not an indicator of skillful possession of a skill. They will not save you from turning onto a crooked road. Their job is to keep those who have lost their way under control. Also, worthy personnel with a small number of stars are often found. Already in the evening, the company went home. Unfortunately, in the next frame, our heroine leaves the city, because she promised the fortune teller to visit a city near the capital. In case of trouble, she only needs to mention Octa. She will be allowed anywhere, knowing that she is a friend of the captain. Our heroes find it hard to part, but they will wait for her. However, after checking the list of refugees from the village of Latomy, no boy named Ivy was found. Only an 8-year-old girl ran away alone. This means that the child is keeping a secret, and is not limited to lying about her gender. For some reason, she could no longer stay in the village. Someday, our heroine will definitely tell her new guards and friends everything. In the next frame, Suro demonstrates his speed skills. The slug has changed a lot. He has a huge amount of strength. The inner voice believes that Suro evolved when he healed Seal. However, the slug discovered something. It was a huge, dug-up field. Apparently this is a deposit. What a size they were. Suddenly, there was movement from the bushes. It was everyone's favorite seal. Now our squad is in full force. It's already late in the evening. We need to have dinner and go to bed. All thanks to Seal, she caught a huge number of rabbits. Suro was not left out either. We need to wake up early and check the forest traps. However, our squad was not alone in this area. The next morning, Ivy could not catch a single mouse. Today is definitely not their day. Fortunately, there was yesterday's meat left. However, our heroine suddenly felt someone's presence, as well as someone approaching. Something unknown is pursuing our heroes. Being cornered, only Seal came to the rescue. With just one scream, the creature was scared off. Already in the next frame, our hero's path to the capital continues. Traveling on horseback is much easier. However, it is still interesting what was pursuing them. At that very moment, the cat sensed a monster. It was a lonely ogre. However, he was not alone. Seal, of course, tried to protect the heroine, but the price was high. At that moment, help arrived. The escape led her to a terrible forest with unknown mannequins. She needed to think of something quickly, but the trap ruined absolutely all her plans. Now our heroine was definitely finished. However, the unknown quickly came to the rescue with a flame attack. Fire is an excellent solution against ogres. But the fire also concerns our heroine. The archer quickly saved her. The knights are worried about how Eva ended up in this godforsaken place. The sorceress also participated in the rescue. On the other hand, two warriors quickly dealt with the remaining ogres. Already in the next frame, our heroine found out everything. All these warriors are a punitive detachment. They learned that ogres settled in this place and arrived to deal with them. The trap was just intended for ogres, but Ivy is not very similar to them. It's time to introduce ourselves. The group's commander is Cesarg, the brute Nuga, the archer Safar, the fire knight Latrois, and Mila, a magician, from the Green Storm squad. They are friends. The next moment, the entire squad went to the camp of the punitive squad. All these adventurers are from the city where our heroine needs to go, so for the duration of the journey, Ivy will become part of the squad. A little later, the squad almost arrived at the camp. However, at that moment, Seal's surprised with her appearance. Only if someone sees Seal, they will also start hunting her. With all sorts of gestures, they still managed to drive the monsters away from the camp. Towards evening, the squad arrived. Here, groups of adventurers from all over the place have gathered. To accommodate them, the camp must be large. Along the perimeter there are boxes with a deterrent. And this is the tent of the flaming sword. Ivy can be accommodated next door. Now the adventurers need to come to the meeting to discuss further plans. Latrois was assigned to be on duty in the kitchen, but he doesn't even know how to cook. The squad either doesn't like the taste, or the meat allegedly has a bad smell. He is already afraid to touch the food. Ivy can help him. Spices will hide the unpleasant smell of rabbit if you rub them into the meat, along with salt. You need to quickly fry. Then chop the vegetables and stew them in a pan with meat for aroma. At the end, fry the meat with hot spices until a beautiful and golden crust. In the next frame, our heroine demonstrated her dishes. Everyone was simply delighted with the taste. Even Mila came for the aromatic smell. So she immediately joined in and was also amazed by the taste of Ivy's food. The dinner was so delicious that it could not do without fireworks. A voice from the past immediately suggested adding some metals to the fireworks. Some was immediately found. If you take rocks, add a rabbit bone and some salt, then tie it all together and launch it into the air with fire. It turned out to be a magnificent fireworks display. Today the mood in the camp is incredibly festive. Seal did not miss the fireworks either. Only by late evening, our heroine was able to feed the hungry Suro. Today they went through many difficulties. They were lucky to stumble upon kind people. At the same time, in the squad's tent, the question arose of how Ivy herself walked so far from the last place alone. This child is too worried about others, was downright upset when he learned about the rest, but was glad that he could help with the cleaning. Ivy is afraid that she can become useless to their squad. It is unlikely that they can do anything about it. Already in the next frame, early in the morning, our heroine found something to treat Suro with, and in huge quantities. Mila also came here. She has special slugs that eat sword blades. It is from her that Ivy can learn about the decaying slug, but they are a real rarity. If you catch one alive, you can get rich. But before the conversation had even ended, our heroine got goosebumps, the same fear as during the chase. At that moment, the knights arrived, who brought broken weapons after the battle with the ogres. They used everything they had with them. Mila's slugs should get rid of the swords. Now you can safely go to the city. That same evening, the squad is planning a feast again, thanks to our heroine. However, our heroine is worried about where Seal is now, whether something has happened. But the voice from the past immediately calmed her down, because if they had discovered the Adandala, there would have been such a noise that they would have immediately recognized it, which meant everything was fine. The assumptions turned out to be correct. Seal is alive and well. The squad, in turn, is worried about whether our heroine is eating at all. At that moment, Mila arrived, who came with gratitude. Her older brothers, Tolt and Malma, also arrived with her. They are twins. This is the full composition of the Green Storm squad. The next moment, Captain Barold, the head of the Lightning King squad, arrived. They were the ones who scared off the Green Storm squad. Tolt and Malma do not like Captain Barold. The captain is worried that the ogres are not the only trouble on the way. It is necessary to accompany Ivy to Atova. This is exactly what the squad was planning to do. Already late at night, Ivy arrived at the tent with dinner for Suro. At this time it was possible to collect a huge number of potions. However, Ivy felt a terrible presence, a shadow approaching. No one knows what it is. Only here again, everything ended quickly. It remains a mystery what exactly scared our heroine. Latrois appeared right after the shadow. Maybe it was his presence. At the same moment, Suro began to tremble just like at the moment when they met the illegal alcohol dealer and strange killers. Ivy figured out how to communicate with the slime, and with the help of questions, what Suro thinks about the squad members. The tremor happened exactly on Mrs. Mila. Already in the next frame, our heroine arrived in Atova. However, before entering the city, you need to fill out a document: name, purpose of arrival, and place of birth. Only Ivy did not really want to enter information about her infamous village. If you do not enter, you need to name your guarantor. As previously known, he is October, the guardian of the city. With such a guarantor, you cannot mention the name of the village. Now our heroine has a pass to the city. The city turned out to be even bigger than the last one. LaCroix wants to give a tour, but first they need to find a place to spend the night. The heroes just arrived at the adventurer's site. That same evening, an important conversation took place between the squads and our heroine. In short, there is danger lurking in this city and the forest surrounding it. The enemies are people. Atova faced a huge disaster. A criminal organization kidnaps people and sells them into slavery. Having found the villain's hideout, the guards conducted a search, but someone warned the criminals in advance and the shelter turned out to be empty. They are only interested in children, so the squad must always be close to our heroine. The organization leaves no traces at all. They are trying to find at least some evidence. Ivy confessed here that she was already being hunted. More precisely, someone or something was following her closely. Here I had to tell everything, and about the feeling of presence in the forest. On the day of the victory over the monsters, Ivy went to the garbage heap. Last night she also felt a dark presence, which disappeared immediately after LaCroix arrived at the tent. All suspicions immediately fell on the guy. However, it is quite possible that it was his steps that scared off the mysterious kidnapper. Most likely, the criminal is hiding among the punitive detachment. Ivy suspects Mila from the Green Whirlwind. Only she can't back up her suspicions in any way, because if she tells about Suro's behavior, then problems may arise. It was already late in the evening. Ivy decided to discuss with Suro what she should do. After all, she can't tell about the rare slug. Only the slug was completely sure that nothing bad would happen. It was time to act as the fortune teller said, everything secret becomes reality. Because of secrets, people stop trusting each other. Early in the morning, the entire squad was already standing near the tent. Only they had information for her. Our heroine was right. Something was wrong with Mila, as well as her brothers. They listened to her words and decided to follow the girl. They secretly talked with a traveling merchant. As soon as the merchant left, the squad played out a chance meeting, asked if they knew the merchant. To which the brothers replied that they simply gave them directions. During the conversation, Mila and her brothers used such a device for secret conversations. They also went to the trade guild and it turned out that the merchant was in the city for the first time and was absolutely clean, but this is strange. What can a merchant from another city discuss who has not concluded deals here under the light of a rare item? Goods that others should not find out about. However, this is only indirect evidence and coincidences. Unfortunately, this evidence will lead them to the main criminal. Everyone is grateful to our heroine that she was the first to doubt Mila. An indirect accusation from our heroine was enough for them. This is real trust. So our heroine needs to be told something. The thing is, she is a tamer and the truth about Mila was told by the slug she tamed. They need to be introduced. The very next moment, the squad began to get acquainted with the slug. Everyone really likes Suro, because he is an unusually rare transparent slug. It seems that he sees right through bad people. That is why Ivy decided to keep quiet. They definitely need to keep it a secret, because if the villains find out, our heroine's life will be in danger. Also, a voice from the past said that she will not regret telling the truth. The squad is happy to welcome a new member. Now everyone knows what a disintegrating slug looks like. The squad has heard about these slugs only from legends and fairy tales, which speaks of the ability to distinguish villains. Suro can also easily recognize lies. Already in the next frame, at lunch, no one could believe that 3 of the Green Storm could be traitors. Thanks to Ivy, now everyone knows the real traitors. When they catch the whole organization, they will finally be able to live in peace. It turns out that the organization began working more than 10 years ago. Everyone thought that missing children were victims of monsters, until 7 years ago they came across one organization. Several escaped victims fell under their protection. In this case, there are many more traitors, because if the organization has existed for so long, then the organization cannot limit itself to one squad of traitors. After some negotiations, our squad came to the conclusion that someone from the high nobility is behind everything. It also became known that our heroine turned 9 today. The whole squad was incredibly happy about this event. There was also information that our heroine knows so much, namely in cooking, from a voice from a past life. Now we need to decide who to consult with, whether there are any traitors among them. We also need to notify the head of the Adventurers Guild. It is also advisable to check him. Already in the next frame, Ivy and her comrades arrived at the guild. After some time, everyone at the top of the guild turned out to be clean. All thanks to the stone and Suro, who can determine whether the interlocutor wishes evil or not. The head of the guild immediately ordered that Ivy and Barnold should check absolutely all travelers. Already in the next frame, our heroes arrived at the merchant's house, which the organization used as a base. One of the guards of the building turned out to be not quite clean. Suro pointed this out. The entire patrol had already been called. They would soon arrive at the place. Already late in the evening, the entire squad was sitting and coming to their senses. Out of 50 soldiers, 37 were traitors. At the same time, Count Faltoria and Lord Ferranda arrived, who were trying to find out if there was any progress. Only the Count turned out to be a spy, but Lord Ferranda turned out to be clean. The hero of this city is a criminal. No wonder, because they thought about it. Now everything can be easily explained, both the unsuccessful raid and the murder of allies who penetrated the enemy. As for the mansion, we need to find out which rooms the traitor from the guards was responsible for. Most likely, the organization instructs him to act behind the scenes. He could calmly say that there is nothing suspicious in the rooms. Therefore, everyone immediately went to the named room. Now we need to find any clue. The voice from the past suggested examining the bookshelves. There are always secret rooms in films. A book with a worn spine was immediately noticed. The clue turned out to be correct. The secret room was found. There was a huge amount of money here, which may indicate that the organization is much larger than they assumed. Important documents were also found, about the deals made by the organization. This is the evidence of the kidnapping of people. We need to leave everything as is, let the opponents think that they have not found anything. Already in the next frame, our squad is trying to connect the threads of events. Thanks to our heroine and Suro, the squad will be able to find all the traitors. She should never be alone. If anything, Latroy's will take her. However, our heroine had a request. She needs to wash all the things. At that moment, Latroy's realized that our heroine is not the boy she pretended to be all this time. Only he understands everything. It is dangerous for a girl to travel alone. He will not tell anyone and she should not. At that moment, Mila arrived, who immediately offered to give our heroine a tour, alone, and also go to a place where they sell sweet treats. Latroy's, of course, immediately agreed. Also, 2 more brothers go with them. However, an argument immediately arose about which establishment to go to. The argument was resolved with a classic game. As a result, they all go to Flo for desserts. Already in the next frame, all the heroes arrived at the establishment. Also during dinner, the reason for the invitation became clear. Mila keeps talking about how special Ivy is. They became so interested and decided to talk. Suro, in turn, says that it is dangerous to deal with these people. At the same time, Latroy's decided to clarify that if they offend Ivy, they will not get away with it. After that, an argument immediately arose that the owners of combat skills are constantly bullying, but the Tamers are only engaged in cleaning up the trash. They do not understand victory over enemies. However, our heroine decided to speak out. Mila inspires her. The mere fact that she is a 2-star Tamer already deserves respect, as well as the possession of rare slugs that eat weapons. During her travels, Ivy often stopped at garbage heaps. If she found something useful, she took it and used it. Our heroine understands Mila. What someone considers nonsense can become a priceless treasure for another. In her opinion, waste disposal is a very important job. Whatever they say, a strong and effective skill is always better than one that brings in a lot of money. If they had one, they would never have become adventurers in their lives. Right after the desserts, Latroy's decided to find out what impressions our heroine had about desserts. It was incredibly delicious. It turns out that the owner of the establishment used to be an adventurer. Latroy's trusts him. That is why the knight insisted on his establishment, because in the place offered by Mila, anything could happen, up to and including food poisoning. Latroy's decided to tell that in his childhood, children could run freely in the streets, adults praised them for obedience, and could shout and spank them for hooliganism. There were many good and bad things. Those were great times. Now, wherever a child goes, someone must protect him. This is a strict rule of Atova. Latroy's dreams of restoring order in this city. In the next frame, our squad gathered together again, where they discussed the recent events related to the Green Storm. Mila and her brothers wanted to kidnap our heroine in broad daylight. However, why would the Green Storm risk everything for Ivy? At that moment, a voice from the past started talking about live bait. If the Green Storm is playing the role of bait, their exposure will not harm the organization's plans in any way. In order to spread rumors about traitors, they could have been deliberately assigned a job that would attract a lot of attention. The news about traitors complicates the lives of the patrol and adventurers, because no one knows where the leak will come from. It turns out that only the top management has important information. The organization dreams of returning the money and documents left in the estate. The enemy will surely give something away. At that moment, a voice from the past suggested that the organization decided to sacrifice Mila as a pawn. As soon as the bait has completed its task, they will simply get rid of them. Maybe make our heroine the bait. In this case, the Green Storm will start to pursue her, thus it will be possible to provide the organization with false information. For example, that the shelter's security has already been weakened. If the organization believes this, it will return for money and documents. The squad will be able to ambush and catch the enemies. Once again, the squad is surprised by the intelligence of our heroine at such an early age. The plan is, of course, excellent, but no one will go for it. Our heroine cannot be exposed to such danger. In the event of a confrontation, a real war will begin. In addition, there are many traitors among the adventurers and the patrol. Under such conditions they will not be able to protect Ivy. Latroy's volunteered to be a personal guardian. But whether our heroine becomes bait or not, she will still be hunted. If you distract the enemy and seize the initiative, this will help protect her and catch the culprits. By spreading rumors, they will force the enemies to return to the shelter. There they will set up an ambush and capture everyone. However, they will not withstand a blow in the back. At that moment, a voice from the past again gave an idea. This time you can use tear gas. In this world, you can use magical items to put to sleep. In that case, everything will be done without casualties. Ivy decided to take the initiative and decided that it was necessary to attack now, because no one knows that the squad knows from Suro who the traitor is. In the next frame, the head of the guild gathered all the warriors of the guild to ask them for a favor. It is necessary to ensure the protection of our heroine. The head needs Ivy to remember all the faces, so they will come up one by one and introduce themselves. The first adventurer in line turned out to be a traitor. At the same time, the patrol squad is guarding the shelter, but the captain is nervous. The whole reason is that they finally moved from dead center, all thanks to Ivy. Thanks to her, the whole situation will change. At that moment, our squad arrived and asked to convene a special group, because a monster's lair was discovered in a forest cave. At the same time, near the guild, the acquaintance with the traitors is finished. Now all the traitors from the list will be sent on a secret mission. The next moment, the Green Storm squad immediately received consent to visit their establishment. The squad begins to put the plan into action. One of the traitors was immediately instructed to leave his people in the mansion to strengthen the security, while all the others will go on a secret mission. Right now, a sleeping sphere will be needed to neutralize the traitors gathered in the mansion. Already in the next frame, the captain's assistant has already assembled a squad for a special mission. Most of the people chosen to guard the mansion are also on the list of traitors, as well as several ordinary soldiers, to divert attention. At the same time, our heroine arrived in Mamaroko. They immediately decided to hold a competition. Who of them will eat more? The operation begins. Mila immediately began with recommendations. Sora at this time was extremely restless. However, everything is going according to the operation plan. As previously expected, the traitors decided to poison the food. Now it's time to lay out all the cards. Latroy's immediately asked why the Green Storm works for the organization. What is the price for kidnapping Ivy? Mila at the last moment decided to abandon this idea. They have already done enough terrible things. What good is this money? Now the conflict and fight cannot be avoided. Latroy's is a skilled warrior. All his skills are much higher than those of the two brothers. However, at the same moment Mila decided to stand up for Latroy's. The Tamer does not want to do this anymore. She is very sorry. At the same moment, in the shelter, the plan begins to work. The traitors immediately decided to take back their own. However, some guards do not even fight, the same traitors. The organizer of the attack was the previously known Count. It was he who came to take his documents and money. Only now in the vault there was already a gift from our squad. The building was completely immersed in soporific smoke. At the same time, the other part of the squad goes into the forest. As expected, the traitors revealed themselves. However, our heroes were completely prepared for this. The remaining half is dealt with by the Fire Sword squad. A moment later, all the traitors were trapped in a magic grid that suppressed any physical force. By late evening, our heroes successfully managed to capture all the traitors from the patrol. Ivy came up with an excellent plan. Thanks to her, the city is now safe. The Lord personally arrived to sort this matter out and punish the criminal Count. However, the raging crowd wants the blood of traitors. The captain of the patrol immediately tries to calm people down. And he did it perfectly. There is only one last request left for our heroine. Everyone was gathered in the main hall to collect information about the arrested members of the organization. Everyone will have to provide passive assistance. Suro and Ivy start their usual work. Already in the next frame, the commanders of the patrol, in every way thank our heroine for the help provided. According to the report of the Adventurers Guild, not only traitors were arrested in the city. As a result of the study of papers from the shelter, 58 people were declared wanted, and 45 of them have already been taken into custody. Even the king's relatives participated in the scheme. In turn, our heroine received a reward of 150 ladol. If you do the math, 1 ladol is equal to 1,000 field mice, and 150 is 150,000 mice. Our heroine only had to sign for the reward. Already in the next frame, our heroine is checking the traps, but again no one was caught. At that moment, our favorite cat, Seal, appeared. They have not seen each other for a long time. Only this time her help will be invaluable. With the help of screams, the animals began to climb into the traps themselves. After some time, our heroine, as usual, carries the prey straight to the butcher. Already in the next frame, a big celebration began in honor of the victory over the organization. They bought the tavern for the whole day, so modesty can be discarded. Everyone immediately began to bring our heroine's dishes. It became known that the Count admitted his guilt. The point was put by evidence found in the house of the same Count. It turns out that the Count realized that he had nothing to lose and does not shut up. He has many stories about the crimes of the nobility. Thanks to this, several more organizations threatening the capital were exposed. Mila is in prison at this time. Since she betrayed the organization, her sentence will definitely be mitigated. All organizations in the country were completely destroyed thanks to the capture of only one of them. So it's time to thank our heroine and her friend. Yes, now everyone knows about Suro. Right now is the best time to introduce everyone to the great slime who personally defeated the organization. The head of the guild asked our heroine to settle here. Of course not forever, you can just postpone the trip to the capital. Here she will have her own house with everything she needs. This is just the price for her help. Our heroine faced a difficult choice. But before making a decision, she needs to share something. In fact, our heroine does not have stars, she is a tamer without a single star. She also told what happened to her in her native village, and why she ran away. This story touched everyone to the depths of the soul, but now everything will be different, because everyone is on her side. Everyone swears to her that no one will blab about this conversation. At that moment, our heroine decided to go on a journey after all, because before her path was just an escape. However, after meeting two guards who decided to help without unnecessary questions. None of them are like those who surrounded her before. Luba told Ivy that she needs to explore the world, and our heroine finally understood what that means. Thanks to everyone at this table, Ivy has changed a lot. She needs to stop running away, there is no shame in being a starless one. She sets off on a journey to find her destiny. With her talents, she can become anyone, everyone supported her decision. Since that's the case, everyone should have a good time while Ivy is still here. Now, our heroine understands what happiness is. Already in the next frame, everyone came out to see our heroine off. Thanks to the new magic bags that the squad gave us, our heroine has become much easier. These bags can even stop time, so that food does not spoil. Also, the commander, read about decaying slugs. Of course there is no information, but they are so weak that they die even from the magic of a one-star tamer. They say that the starless have practically no power. It is likely that except for our heroine, no one could tame Suro. Now it's time to say goodbye. Ivy must definitely drop in for a visit. This is where our seal appeared. The squad does not believe their eyes. Our heroine has one of the strongest monsters. Now, in full force, our three heroes can set off on their journey.